Hey everyone, welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving headfirst into something that is deeply primal and honestly fundamentally terrifying. We're talking about the someone's outside phenomenon. We'll be breaking down 3 true home invasion encounters straight from our source material. We're going to dissect exactly how these absolute nightmares unfold, the massive psychological toll they take, and those deep-seated survival instincts they trigger. All right, let's just get right into it.
So have you ever felt like someone is watching you from the dark? Just imagine the visceral terror of your supposedly safe space. Maybe it's your home, a vacation cabin, your bedroom, literally being breached by unseen eyes just outside the glass. It's this incredibly universal fear, right? That sudden creeping realization that you are not alone. And as we're going to see in our very first story, that fear can absolutely become a reality when you're at your absolute most vulnerable.
Case Study 1. The Vulnerability of Youth.
Okay, so our first situation involves a 12-year-old who's left home alone for the evening in this quiet, super friendly suburban town. Parents left cash for pizza, the kids chillin', playing James Bond video games on a PlayStation 2. Honestly, the perfect setup for a relaxing night. But that illusion of safety gets totally shattered the second the pizza arrives. The delivery driver, this rough-looking guy with a long beard and a black trucker hat named Phil, hands over the change, looks right past the kid into the empty house, and asks this incredibly creepy question. "You alone here?" I mean, there were no cars in the driveway, and a kid was answering the door. The guy was clearly sizing the whole situation up.
Now put yourself in that 12-year-old's shoes for a second. How on earth do you answer that? The kid, kind of remembering their parents' warnings about strangers, nervously replies that their parents were on their way home. Now looking back, the source points out this was actually a pretty dangerous answer, because it basically confirmed the kid was, in fact, currently completely alone. Fast forward to 11 p.m. The doorbell rings. A voice outside asks to use the phone. The kid wisely ignores it and walks upstairs. But then, the man starts banging on the door, shouting, revealing he's been watching the kid through the glass literally the entire time.
It is pure panic mode now. The child sprints upstairs, calls their mom, and hides under the parents' bed. And while they're on the phone with the police in the dark, they hear the backyard gate open, softly. Then, the unmistakable, terrifying sound of a sliding back window opening. The guy bypassed the locked front door entirely. Next, heavy footsteps start wandering around inside the house to slowly searching the downstairs and then making their way up the stairs. And here comes the absolute terrifying climax for this poor kid hiding in the dark. The intruder actually tries the locked bedroom door handle, pressing it down multiple times. Luckily, thank goodness, the lock held. The police arrived shortly after and found the back door ajar and that sliding window open. The pizzeria later totally denied Phil's involvement, but the chilling implication is still there. Someone knew that kid was vulnerable.
Case Study 2. The Terror of Isolation. So now we shift from a cozy suburb to a massively secluded, custom-built dream home deep in the backcountry forests of North Idaho. We're talking a huge 2-story layout, full bar, basement movie theater, the whole shebang. But it backed up directly to these pitch-black woods and paper mill logging grounds with absolutely zero neighbors around. Our protagonist here is a teenager who's watching a movie in the basement with his girlfriend around midnight when he suddenly gets hit with this overwhelming, totally instinctual fight-or-flight response. His body literally sensed danger before his eyes even confirmed a thing.
After his girlfriend heads home, he goes downstairs to shut off the lights. And that's when he hears it, just a gentle tapping of a knife on glass. He looks out the massive backyard window and spots this homeless-looking guy with wild hair, filthy clothes, and just a deranged, wide-eyed smile, slowly tapping a blade against the glass. No way, right? And when the teenager backs away and goes into another room to shut off more lights, the smiling man just calmly walks over to the sliding glass door and stands there, inches away, just staring.
And here's the kicker. This wasn't some isolated one-off incident. For weeks leading up to this, the teenager had been hearing this faint metallic tapping at night. Fast forward to wintertime. The parents are away, leaving the teen home with a shotgun and a fiercely protective Rottweiler. One night, the dog goes absolutely crazy, aggressively barking at a slow, hollow knock at the door. The teen smartly doesn't answer, but the next morning reveals the horrifying truth. Fresh, bare human footprints in the snow, circling the entire house. And they stopped at every single window. This stalker was actively looking for him. When the teen followed the trail, it went half a mile deep into the forest before deliberately zigzagging just to throw off anyone trying to track him.
Well, that very same night, the loud tapping comes back. But the teenager has had enough. He marches out onto the second-story deck, flips on the heavy fog lights, And boom, there's the man. Same deranged smile, same knife. The teen yells out, "If you don't leave, I'll put one right through you." But the man doesn't even flinch. He just keeps grinning. It was only after the teenager fired a literal warning shot into the air and unleashed his aggressive Rottweiler out into the dark woods that the stalker finally retreated and was never seen again.
Case Study 3. The False Security of Numbers.
You'd think for our final story, a group of 6 college friends on spring break in March of 2022 would be safe from this kind of terror, right? Safety in numbers and all that. Well, the red flags were literally waving from day one. They were expecting this fun, stupidly cheap cabin with a nice wraparound porch, but the owner gives them this super bizarre warning telling them not to go into the woods because of, quote, old stuff back there. Okay, weird. After driving an hour past the point where their GPS totally died, they finally find the place. It's dirty, smells faintly of garbage, and is basically suffocated by these incredibly dense, heavy, pitch-black woods.
So everything kicks off pretty normally, around 7 p.m. with unloading the cars, drinking, grilling out. But by 2 a.m., the heavy, oppressive silence of those woods is just too much, and it drives everyone inside to sleep. Then, at 4:15 a.m., our protagonist gets woken up by this steady, non-metallic, non-mechanical tapping. It sounded exactly like fingers. He looks over at the window of his ground floor room, and there's a pale, shirtless man with wild hair pressing his face right against the glass, mouth wide open, just staring unblinking. He manages to wake up a friend, which scares the guy off. But the next morning, bare human footprints circling the entire cabin.
Now, night 1 was terrifying enough with the weird shirtless guy tapping at the glass. But night 2? Night 2 plunged into pure psychological horror. Despite locking absolutely everything up tight, at 3:30 a.m., 2 of the friends actually find the man inside the house, and his appearance had completely changed. He was now totally naked, and his back was covered in these long, raw scratches. And he wasn't doing anything. He was just standing there silently in the kitchen, swaying back and forth, staring blankly at the refrigerator. Just a completely surreal nightmare.
The group silently gathers in the hallway, gripping whatever they can find, pocket knives, a fire poker. They brace themselves, flip on the kitchen light, and the man is instantly gone. But the back door is standing wide open. It wasn't broken, it wasn't forced at all. It was just open. Somehow, this deeply unstable person either had a key or knew exactly how to breach this supposedly secure cabin without making a single sound. Unsurprisingly, the group packed up all their stuff and fled into the night less than 20 minutes later.
So they drive until they finally get enough cell signal to call the sheriff, and they meet a local deputy at a diner. Now, his reaction to this whole ordeal is honestly incredibly unsettling, because he wasn't surprised at all. He just casually says, yeah, we've had some trouble with folks squatting up in those woods. Not always right in the head. The deputy's completely nonchalant reaction, plus his implied familiarity with that weird cabin owner, just confirmed everything. They had been stalked by someone dangerously unhinged, who had probably been watching them the absolute second they arrived.
Trusting your instincts. We've just covered 3 distinct, completely terrifying encounters, and while the locations changed, the mechanics of survival in our source material stayed remarkably consistent. Let's quickly review the critical tactics here. First, physical barriers are your absolute first line of defense, so lock all doors and windows, even though, as we saw, they aren't always foolproof. If someone does breach your space, stay quiet and hide, just like that brilliant 12-year-old under the bed. Call for help immediately. But honestly, most importantly, trust your fight or flight instinct. In both the Idaho house and the South Carolina cabin, the victims woke up or felt this sudden wave of dread right before they actually got visual confirmation of the danger. Human intuition is ridiculously powerful. When your gut is screaming that something is wrong, it rarely ever is.
All right, that brings us to the end of our explainer. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with a final thought to really reflect on tonight. What would you do if you looked out your window right now and saw someone smiling back? The dark is incredibly vast, and a pane of glass is a very, very fragile barrier between your safe, cozy space and whatever might be wandering outside. Lock your doors, trust your instincts, and stay safe out there.